Y'all have heard of lending libraries, where y'all can take your extra books, put them out, and share them with your neighbors. Well, you can also do the same thing with Hot Wheels. But your library is going to look a little bit different. In this video, I show you how to build one. I found some scrap lumber roughly the size that I needed. This wood started out its life as a shipping crate for a 737 leading edge. Then it spent about 10 or 15 years as a wine rack. And now it's going to be a Hot Wheels library. I think this is a little poetic since both Hot Wheels and airplanes are both fast. To start out, I have to build the basic box. Here we see it is possible for a 12-inch chop saw to cut a 14-inch board. Just watch your arms while you do it. Then do a quick fit check. On this project, I'm going to forego any special joints, because I'm going to use Gorilla Glue to hold it together. And that glue joint's probably going to be stronger than the wood itself. I then mark the box for the slope of the roof. Before proceeding further, make sure you mark the location of each board in your project, so that as you continue the build process, you can put each board back where they belong. Cutting the slope on the two ends is pretty easy. You can just use your chop saw for that. Oh wow, look at all that smoke. It looks like it's time for me to do a blade change on my chop saw. Cutting the front and the back of the box, not so easy. You need to break out your table saw for that cut. Reassemble and make sure all your cuts line up. Clamp your box together, then use it as a template for the floor. This board used to be part of a chicken coop. You can see from the lack of smoke that the new blade's making a world of difference when I'm cutting. Here we're going to mark the slots that we're going to cut out for our shelves. Identify this line as where the floor is, so you don't cut there. Then measure up 2 inches from the top of the floor. This piece of wood is how thick my shelves will be. Transfer that likeness over to your project. After it's all said and done, it looks like I'll be able to fit 3 shelves in here at a 2-inch spacing. 4 if you count the floor. Using an adjustable carpenter square is a very easy and accurate way to transfer those lines all the way across the boards. Here I'm putting in squiggly lines, any place that I need to route out. When you have a board with so many lines on it, it's pretty easy to start cutting in the wrong spot. Running the router over the end pieces is pretty easy, because you just route the entire length of the board. The joint will be hidden by the front and the back of the box. However, when you're doing the back wall of the library, you want to hide that router joint. So, using the sidewall joints you just did, mark the stopping point for the back wall. Here, I'm checking the accuracy of my sidewall cuts. If all of your cuts don't line up, this just won't work. To get the router cut started, slowly move the router back and forth as you push it into the wood. It'll clear out the wood as you move down. Then, finish all of your cuts. Of course, making absolutely sure you stop before you go off the end of the board. Okay, it's time to be nervous. It's fit check time. See if your sample shelf board will slide in. And if it doesn't, go back and make your slots a little wider as necessary. Now it's time to cut the real shelves. Again, the adjustable carpenter square. This is how deep I need to make each shelf. And use the square itself to mark my lines. This piece of wood used to be the top of a painter's table. In case you're curious, the long pause at the end of each cut is I'm waiting for the blade to stop before I move the saw. Moving on to the front of the library, I want to have 2 options for the door, solid and clear. So I can't just drill a hole and use a jigsaw to cut out the inside piece of wood. That would ruin it. So I'm going to start my cut with a multi-tool. Put in a sharp blade, and then as you're going down, keep rocking it back and forth to clear out the sawdust. The multi-tool will work its way into the wood. Once that initial groove is cut, you can finish it off with your jigsaw. Time for another progress fit check. During the check, I noticed it might be hard for a person with larger hands to get access to the top shelf. So I trimmed that shelf down just a little bit to increase accessibility. Okay, time to move on to the roof. As you may have guessed from what's painted on it, this used to be part of our chicken coop. I sure miss the girls. You're gonna need an assistant for the next part. It's time to glue. 2 hands is not enough hands to do this job. Remember the order that you're tearing it apart. You're gonna glue it in exactly the opposite order that you tore it apart in. So the inside shelves get glued first. The side walls next. Then we did the floor. Have your clamping set up in advance. While your glue is drying is not the time to figure out your clamping arrangement. Finally, we're going to glue the front on. This clamp here is pulling in on the sides, as well as pushing down on the front. We decided to throw a couple brad nails in to help hold the front in place while the glue sets. Okay, the glue has dried. We can press on. The clear door is going to be made out of steel and plexiglass. I want it to be recessed into the box, so I route a groove out all the way around the front opening. Let's build the steel framework. This is 1/2 inch by 1/4 inch steel. I hold it in place and I mark it. Absolutely everything about this door is going to be custom to this box. Today I just used the cutoff wheel. There's so few cuts that it wasn't worth breaking out the plasma cutter for. Additionally, the cutoff wheel produces a much more accurate cut. I'm marking a 45-degree angle on each of my overlaps. After I cut these out, the steel will be flush with the top of the box. Tack weld the frame in place to hold everything together. You can then remove it off the box and properly weld all 4 corners. After welding, grind all 4 corners down so they're smooth. Oh, check it out, I got a new welding table for Christmas. It works great. So, this frame isn't actually wide enough for me to mount the hinges on. But the nice thing about steel is you can always make it wider. Here I'm mounting 2 stubs where the hinges will be. Same thing goes for where the handle's going to be mounted. I need to make the frame just a little bit wider here. To figure out hinge placement, I tape everything into place and check for clearance. I'm going to mount the hinges onto the door first, and then onto the box second. I start out by drilling some pilot holes. Once those holes are in place, you no longer need the tape. I want to put threads into these holes, and DeWalt claimed these special drill bits will drill a hole and thread at the same time. Let's give it a try. And the bit just snapped right off. DeWalt, I'm not too impressed. Luckily, there was enough of that drill bit sticking out that I could actually extract it from the hole. So, as a workaround, I just drilled the holes out and I'll use a nut and screw combination. I then noticed a major drawback with this plan. The door no longer closes. Remember, it originally sat flush. So now I have to chisel out some wood to make room for the nut. With that done, I can now finish mounting. Again, I tape the hinges into place. Check for proper operation. Then mount the hinges on the wood side. Let's put on a handle. Now that the metal frame is complete, let's drill all the mounting holes in our alternate door. If you don't have all the metalworking equipment to make the clear door, this door would work absolutely fine. Just throw a Hot Wheels decal on the front of it and everybody will know exactly what's in here. I actually made both doors so that the person I'm giving this to can choose which one they want. If the screws are too long, just cut them off with your cutoff wheel. There you have it, one fully functioning door. Here, I'm trying to figure out the optimum screw arrangement to hold the plexiglass in place. I then drill all my pilot holes. But after seeing what I had to go through to put a nut on, I decided to go back to threading the holes. So I went out and bought a real tap. And it worked much, much better. This is actually the first time I've ever put threads into a hole in a piece of metal. After watching some YouTube how-to videos, I learned lots of oil and metal chip removal is the key to success. I really want to thank people that put out YouTube DIY videos. They sure make life easy on the rest of us. With all the mounting holes drilled, it's time to cut out the plexiglass. I want to remove the plexiglass from where the hinge is going to be. A cutoff wheel at slow speed with a Dremel tool worked pretty well for this. Fit check time works like a champ. Oh, you may have noticed, I also polished the metal frame, then put several coats of clear paint on it to protect it from rusting. Drill all the holes for the mounting screws. Then get excited as you install the screws. We're almost done. Oops, never mind. The screws are too long. They stick out of the bottom. But that's an easy fix. Put a nut onto the screw, cut the screw length off, and when you back the nut out, it'll rethread the screw. A door lock can be very simple. Adjust the height of the lock using a stack of washers, then screw in a small piece of wood that can be rotated into place. Finally, I want the roof to be removable to make shipping this thing to Colorado a lot easier. But I want it to be easy to put on when it gets there. So I'll use a wood dowel pin system. First step, drill a pilot hole, then leave the drill bit in place to hold the roof. Do this a second time with another drill bit. Now switch out to a drill bit the same size as your wood dowel. And cut 4 dowels to the proper length. After you get to 2 bottom dowels installed, remove the drill bits one at a time and install your dowels up there. Glue the dowels into the roof, making sure not to get any of the glue on the part of the dowel that goes into the actual box. After the glue has dried, go back with some sealant and cover those holes to bring back your waterproofness. Once your library makes it safely to Colorado, all that's left to do is to run a bead of glue along the top, orient the roof so the back is at the lowest end of the library, and then snap it in place. And there you have it, one completed Hot Wheels library. Open for all the kids to shop at.